My wife sent me a message divorcing me when I was deployed overseas, then drained our account and moved her boyfriend into our home. I calmly said, "Okay." She realized too late. I had already turned tables. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I didn't even blink. I just stared at the message glowing on my cracked tablet screen, the desert wind pushing dust under the makeshift tent flap, while everyone around me argued over whose turn it was to clean the comms room. And the strange part wasn't the divorce itself. It was how expected it felt. But if you think this is a story about a cheating wife, it's not. Not really. Because the moment I read her message, I knew something was off, way off. Something that had nothing to do with heartbreak, and everything to do with a plan she didn't know I'd already set in motion. But that part doesn't make sense yet. Let me back up. My name is Ethan Ward, 38 years old, logistics specialist for a small humanitarian security division contracted overseas. Not exactly military, not exactly civilian, stuck in that weird place where your uniform is tan and your paycheck is inconsistent. My wife, well, now ex-wife Lauren, used to joke that I was married to traveling jobs. 12 years together, 9 of them marked by airport goodbyes, grainy video calls, and me missing every anniversary except one. I thought she understood the lifestyle. But apparently, she didn't. Her message had arrived during my night shift, right after I'd spent 6 hours sorting supply crates and trying to figure out why our generator logs didn't match. My head was already pounding when the notification popped up. A blinking icon. Lauren's name. I tapped it open. 3 sentences. Not even a proper greeting. And then the kicker at the bottom. Let's not make this messy. If she wanted not messy, she picked the wrong husband. But here's the thing. I didn't panic. I didn't react. I didn't break down. Because 2 months before leaving the country, I'd already noticed something wasn't right. Lauren used to talk to me during her lunch breaks. Suddenly, those calls stopped. Then she started coming home late. Then she started locking her phone, turning away when messages came in, claiming it was work stuff. The last time we saw each other before my deployment, her hug felt like a handshake. Most men would have confronted her. But that's not who I am. Instead, I stayed quiet, observant, calm. Calm is dangerous. People never notice what calm people are doing. So, while Lauren had been changing passwords and changing habits, I had been changing something else. My plans. Not revenge. Not suspicion. Just preparation. Little steps. The first thing I did was separate my finances from ours. Not fully, just enough that she wouldn't notice. A portion of my pay started going into a private account Lauren didn't know existed. Then I quietly moved ownership of certain assets into a family trust. My cousin helped me set up years ago. It wasn't unusual on paper. It looked like I was preparing for long-term travel. I didn't know why I was doing it then. I just had a feeling. And that feeling became justified the night before I deployed. Lauren had kissed me goodbye at the airport, her lips soft, her smile practiced. But when she let go, it felt like she'd already left. So when her message came, months later, thousands of miles away, telling me she'd filed for divorce, drained our account, and moved someone else into our home, I didn't break. My stomach dropped, sure. My breathing hitched, yes. But some part of me, the part that had been quietly watching, just whispered, "There it is." I typed back one word. Okay. Most people would have typed something emotional. Not me. Because nothing she said in that message was the part that truly scared me. What scared me was what happened 24 hours before she sent it. That was when my boss, Mark, handed me a sealed folder with my name on it. "Ward, this came through encrypted channels," he'd said, tapping the corner with a concerned look. "Says, it's personal, high priority." I didn't open it right then. I waited until my shift ended, until the sun rose, until the base quieted. Inside the folder were 3 things. 1. A document with my name highlighted. 2. A list of transactions tied to a company I'd never heard of. 3. A printed message that said, "You need to look into this. Your name is connected to someone who shouldn't have it." I had no idea what any of it meant. Not yet. But when Lauren's divorce message came less than a day later, something clicked in my brain. She wasn't just leaving me. She wasn't just draining the account. She was afraid. Not of me. Of something else. Something or someone she'd gotten involved with. And she didn't want me connected to it. For a while, I tried to convince myself that I was reading too much into it. But then I made a mistake. I opened our home security app. I only wanted to check on our dog. That was it. Instead, the first video feed that loaded was our living room. And standing right there, using my coffee mug and wearing my jacket, was a man I'd never seen before. Dark hair. Fit build. Too comfortable in my home. But that wasn't what made my chest tighten. What made my breath freeze was the open briefcase on the table behind him. Stacks of papers. Folders with colored tabs. And my name on half of them. In bold. Underlined. Documents I'd never seen. Forms I'd never signed. And Lauren was sitting beside him, writing something. Not laughing. Not flirting. Focused. Serious. Afraid. That's when I realized. Lauren wasn't just cheating. She was involved in something she didn't understand. And they were using my identity. That was the first moment I felt something sharper than betrayal. It wasn't rage. It was clarity. I needed information. I needed control. And most importantly, I needed Lauren to believe I had accepted everything she'd done. That's why I typed, "Okay." That's why I stayed silent. That's why I acted like I had given up. Because people show their true plans only when they think the other person is done fighting. And Lauren truly thought I was done. She thought she'd gotten away with everything. But she hadn't realized the truth. By the time she sent that message, I had already taken the first step in a plan she didn't know existed. A plan that didn't involve yelling or chasing or revenge. A plan that would make her realize, far too late, that the tables had already turned. And the next morning, something happened that confirmed everything. I received a message from an unknown number. A single line. "We need to talk about the documents your wife submitted." That was the moment the whole story changed. Not because of Lauren, not because of the boyfriend, but because someone else, someone dangerous, had entered the picture. And they weren't just after my marriage. They were after my name. The message appeared just as the sun was rising over the compound, turning the sand outside into a sheet of gold. I hadn't slept much. My mind kept circling that video feed, the folders with my name, that man in my jacket. When the unknown number texted, my pulse spiked. "We need to talk about the documents your wife submitted." My first instinct was to ignore it. My second was to respond immediately. Instead, I took a slow breath and typed, "Who is this?" The reply came fast. "Someone who's trying to keep you from losing everything." That line hit me harder than the divorce message, because it told me something important. Whatever Lauren and that man were doing, they weren't working alone. And someone on the outside, someone who shouldn't have known my number, believed I was in danger. Before I could type anything else, another message followed. "Call me. Don't text." It included a number, no name. I stepped out of the tent, walked behind the supply containers to where nobody would hear, and dialed. A woman answered on the first ring. "Mr. Ward." Her voice was calm, professional, almost too steady. "My name is Mira Dalton. I'm with a private compliance division connected to several federal agencies. I need to confirm something before I continue. Did you authorize any new financial submissions using your name, birth date, or employment records?" I swallowed. "No, never." "That's what I thought," she said quietly. "Then you need to hear this." And then she told me everything. According to her, someone had used my identity to apply for a series of rapid approval business accounts tied to an import company registered in my name, something Lauren absolutely couldn't have created alone. There were licensing requests, tax IDs, even a small business loan application that had been pushed through the early stages. All of it under Ethan Ward Trading LLC, a company I'd never heard of. Why would my wife be involved in something like that? I asked, heart pounding. There was a pause. That, she said, is what concerns me, because she didn't apply alone. My back pressed against the metal container. Who helped her? One moment. Papers shuffled. There's a second submission tied to the same applications. He listed himself as your business partner. His name is Damon Price. My blood ran cold. Damon. The man from the security footage. The man in my jacket. The man in my house. Mira continued, her voice low. Mr. Ward, you need to understand something. Price is known, not to law enforcement yet, but to us. He's been linked to identity manipulation schemes involving overseas contractors. He targets families of people who are deployed or traveling for long periods. And my wife? I whispered. Either she's being manipulated, Mira said, or she's complicit. Either way, I'd never expected Lauren to be capable of something like this. Mira cleared her throat. I'll keep this brief. We're monitoring transactions connected to your identity, but we can't act unless you provide confirmation when you return home. Until then, stay quiet. Do not confront your wife. And do not contact Price. Why? Her voice sharpened. Because you're not dealing with amateurs, and they already think you're out of the picture. That is your advantage. Then she hung up. I stood outside until my hands stopped shaking. And that was the moment I made the most important decision of the entire ordeal. I was going home. Immediately. But Lauren and Damon could not know. The less they expected, the more leverage I would have. That evening, I approached my supervisor. I need emergency leave, I said. He studied my face, then nodded. Family? Yeah. Say no more. Within 48 hours, I was on a flight heading back home. Not to my house. That would have been too obvious. Instead, I checked into a cheap motel about 30 minutes away. A place with buzzing lights, peeling wallpaper, and a receptionist who didn't look twice at people using fake names. Perfect. The moment I dropped my bag, I opened the security app again. Lauren was in the kitchen. Damon was in the living room, talking on the phone. I turned up the volume just in time to hear him say, once the final signatures go through, the payout hits. He'll never see it. He laughed. Guys probably counting sand grains overseas while we close the deal. I had to steady myself. This wasn't just cheating. Not just betrayal. This was theft. Identity fraud. Financial destruction, and Lauren was sitting beside him like none of it mattered. I watched for an hour, studying movements, listening, not reacting. Then I called Mira. It's worse than we thought, I said. You need to hear what I just recorded. I shared the footage through a secure link. Her response came fast. Mr. Ward, you don't understand. That paperwork they're trying to submit includes a clause that transfers responsibility for a large loan directly to you. My chest tightened. What kind of loan? High-risk import financing. If approved, you would be liable for the entire amount, around $200,000. I gripped the motel table edge. And Lauren signed off on this? Her digital signature is on 3 documents. The 4th requires your in-person authorization, which is why Price seems impatient. I leaned back, breath shaky. So, they needed me gone. Yes. And they needed access to my home. Yes. And they needed Lauren. Mira paused. She may not understand the full scope, but she knows enough. A cold calm settled over me. Okay, I said. Tell me how to stop them. Her tone changed lower, sharper, professional. Do everything exactly as I say. That night, I didn't sleep. I re-watched the footage again and again. Every detail mattered. Lauren's nervous glances. Damon's confidence. Folders arranged too neatly to be casual. Repeated mentions of a payout. They weren't just planning to erase my credit. They were planning to vanish with the money. And I was the fall guy. The next morning, I put phase 1 into action. I drove to my bank. I froze every account. I triggered identity protection protocols. I placed a fraud alert tied to my social security number. The clerk looked startled. "Sir, are you in danger?" "No," I said calmly, "but someone else is in danger of making a very stupid mistake." Then came phase 2. I went to the county office and filed a notice of identity dispute, making any future legal documents requiring my signature void without my physical presence. Phase 3. I contacted a lawyer recommended by Mira, someone who dealt specifically with identity and financial exploitation. His name was Grant Mercer, and he carried himself like a man who had seen every scam known to mankind. He listened. He took notes. He didn't interrupt. When I finished, he tapped his pen twice. "This isn't a divorce problem," he said. "This is a structured scheme. A good one. Most people would fall for it." "Will they get away with it?" I asked. Grant smiled, a slow, almost amused smile. "Not if we let them finish the job." I frowned. "Finish?" "People like Price don't quit early. They push until they get greedy. And greed is where they fall apart." I exhaled. "So what do?" "We give them rope," he said. "Enough rope that when they pull, it tightens around their own neck." And slowly, piece by piece, we built the plan. It was simple. We let Lauren and Damon believe they were winning. We let them submit what they thought were the final documents. We let them think I was clueless, far away, defeated. And then we would pull everything out from under them in one move. 2 days later, the moment came. I was in my motel room when Lauren called. Her voice was tight, shaky, almost breathless. "Ethan, we need to talk." I didn't answer. I let it go to voicemail. An hour later, Damon tried calling me too. Ignored. Then Lauren texted, "I need your signature on something. Just a formality, please." I stared at the message. Then typed, "Send it." She did. A PDF. A document claiming I was entering a business partnership with Damon's Fictional company. I forwarded it to Grant. He wrote back one sentence. "Perfect. This is exactly what we needed." Lauren had unknowingly delivered her own undoing. Grant sent the final step. "Come to my office. Bring your ID. We file everything today." I went. We filled out forms. We signed statements. We submitted evidence. We handed over video footage. And then Grant pressed a button on his desk phone. "You can come in." 2 people entered. Mira and a federal investigator wearing a badge clipped to his belt. The investigator nodded at me. "Mr. Ward, thank you. We're ready." "Ready for what?" I asked. He opened a folder. "For closure." Grant motioned me closer to the window. "Look outside." I did. Across the street, Lauren and Damon were walking into a building. The same building where they planned to finalize their fraudulent submission. But waiting inside were federal agents. Mira's voice was steady behind me. "They think they're submitting the final forms. Instead, they're walking into a direct interview with the Financial Crimes Division." I watched through the window, breath caught in my throat. 2 minutes passed. 3. Then, agents stepped forward. Lauren froze. Damon tried to walk away. He didn't get far. Handcuffs. Interrogation. Panic. Lauren spotted me across the street through the window. Her face collapsed. A single word escaped her lips. I saw it, even without sound. "Ethan?" I didn't move. I didn't wave. I didn't even blink. This wasn't revenge. This wasn't punishment. It was simply truth catching up. Later, after statements and confirmations and signatures, Mira walked me out the door. "It's over," she said. I shook my head softly. "No," I said. "This is the beginning." And it was. Lauren avoided charges by cooperating. Damon didn't. He tried to take a plea. then backed out, then tried to hide assets, bad moves all around. Meanwhile, every document they forged, every fake signature, every transaction, all of it was tied to Damon. None of it touched me, because I had prepared before they even knew what they were doing. Because I had listened, watched, stayed calm. Lauren eventually reached out, asking to explain. I blocked the number, not out of anger, out of peace. Months later, I moved to a quiet town outside Flagstaff, bought a small place surrounded by pine trees, and started rebuilding a life that wasn't built on suspicion or distance. I'm not bitter. I'm not broken. I'm free. And sometimes, when the nights get quiet, I remember that first message, the divorce, the drained account, the betrayal. And I almost laugh, because Lauren thought she blindsided me. She thought I would crumble. She thought she was one step ahead. But the truth is simple. By the time she tried to destroy me, I had already turned the tables.